Hello, welcome pen friends. Welcome to the progress report for May 2025, where I just talked to you about how it's been working out with the pens, the fountain pens and inks that I've been writing with. I always lately have started with the report card because I never remember at the end to do it if I don't. So we'll just dive right in. This is my Bond Travel Gear old stock. It's a hardcover journal, and it's 68 GSM Tomoe River paper. So this is where I start out every time with my tests and everything. And let me tell you, this month has really been quite interesting. So nothing is quite the way it usually is. This is the second time I've tried to do the video. And so I'm just gonna practice being okay with imperfection. So let's put it that way. But we do have a report card and a lot of interesting things came up. So let's just dive right in. So the first pen was the Lamy Vista with a broad nib. And I had the Pannonia nettle in it, this beautiful green, and this has worked out great. I gave it an A+ because for me, on the papers I've been using, and we'll look at it, I've got a CVS caliber chart that I made because that's my real test. When it can write on that, then we're good. So but I'll look at that with you in a little bit. I really enjoyed it, and for me it worked out really good. So but this is a pretty gushy broad Lamy nib. So that's the first one. And then next up was Tom's Studio Rambling Rose in another Lamy, a Lamy Safari with the light, that had the light rose finish with a broad nib. I gave that an A because it's running a little bit dry on some of the papers, including CVS caliber. So it's in this Lamy Safari with a broad nib. And it's a very nuanced difference, but I definitely noticed that it was, even on my, well, the best bet was Tomoe River paper. But on other papers like Midori, forget it. It did okay for a couple words or, one little part of a sentence, and then it was too dry. But I don't think it's the ink. I think it's the combination of the ink and the nib and the paper. So that's just one of those things that comes up a lot. So next up was my Lamy 2000 with Pilot Fuyugaki, and I love this. I really bonded with my Lamy 2000 for letter writing. I at first really wished I'd gotten a medium nib, but I think that for journaling, I would be happier maybe with a medium nib. But for letter writing, I love how it shows off the ink. And this is an A+. Okay, so then let's hold on here. Let me see. I think I failed to show the tile. So this was the, the one before, the Rambling Rose, of course. And then this was the Pilot Fuyugaki. Just a gorgeous ink with a lot of sheen. So it's really pretty. These are all out of order. This is going to be a lot of fun. Oh well, that's okay. It kind of fits in with a theme for this month. Okay, so next up was the little Quebeco Sport. I'll show you that one because that's, I haven't written with this one as much. It's the aluminum, the AL. It has a double broad, and this is gorgeous. At first I thought, woo, way too flowy, but it has worked out okay on the CVS caliber paper and on the Midori. So that just shows me that maybe on Tomoe River paper it sits up on the paper and takes a little too long to dry because it's a double broad, but it's been really nice. But I did give it an A. I tend to like inks and nibs that just run across several different paper types and don't give me any trouble, which is a really, really unfair high standard, I think. But still, that's me. I might as well be honest there. Okay, so that tile was this one, the Tom Studio Mulled Apple Spice. It's gorgeous. It's just a really bright, cheerful red. So then next, in the Benu Euphoria, the pink champagne with a broad nib, I put Monteverde Rose Noir, which is one of my old favorites. It just is so complex. It's such a beautiful purple. And I gave it an A+. This one is seamless. It goes from Tomoe River 52, 68, CVS caliber. It did okay too on the Midori. It just, so I can write a letter or make a journal entry or write wherever I want without any fuss. That's kind of what I like. Oh my gosh. I need to probably just, make sure I make some sort of a system where I star the ones that are like that, I guess, or something. Okay, so, because every month it's like Groundhog Day. I start over and I don't always remember what what factors might work the best, Okay, so next was the Benu Talisman, and I'll show you this one. This one is the Sakura Cherry Blossoms with a broad nib. And I did write with it with Robert Oster Kids on the Block, and I gave it an A. It wasn't a wow color for me, but other than that, I really like it. I mean, it's pretty, it is, but it's blue, and I've seen an awful lot of blues, blue inks, since exploring hundreds and hundreds of fountain pen inks over the last 8-9 years. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's like, oh, it's another blue. But it's a sample, so it's really good that it's a sample. Okay, so then next up is TWSBI Eco Transparent Purple with a broad nib and Diamine Lavender. So wonderful, absolutely excellent on everything. The color, the flow, I gave it an A+. Super, super nice. I think when we get in the ink journal, we're going to find out that I skipped right over doing ink pages on it. I don't know why. When I started looking it over, I thought, okay, this video either happens or it doesn't. And I think that I just had to go with it. And that's part of a progress report. If it was a progress report coming from a teacher, it'd be one that I would sign, not give it to my mom. Let's put it that way. Okay, next up is, I don't know if any of you went through that with your own children, but yeah, one time that happened to me. A teacher called me and I said, well, I didn't see that progress report. Uh-oh. So that was big trouble for my son. Okay, this one is, it started out with a Rotring art pen, a 1.1, and I switched it into the TWSBI Eco Tea Eggplant with a broad nib because this was too dry. I could tell from the beginning, and it's such a lovely ink. Okay, let me show you the tile. I knew I was going to love it, but it wasn't friendly with that 1.1 stub on the Rotring, so I changed it out, and I gave it an A. It's probably because it's light for me, but it's subtle, and it does have a lot of pretty shading. I actually used it in a letter to pen friend Sharon today, and I actually liked how it was looking, and I thought, ooh, maybe it does deserve an A+. So, but it's right up there. It's really pretty. It's just very subtle compared to a bright purple like Diamine Lavender. Let's look at them together. See how Diamine Lavender is just brighter, more traditional, and this one, it's gorgeous though. You can't, it really is pretty. Okay. I'm just Miss Picky, I guess. Okay. So next it was the TWSBI Eco Indigo and Bronze with a medium nib. Now this is a common combination for me with Diamine Oxford Blue. I was going to say Oxblood Blue, but no, Oxford Blue, and I love it. It's an A+. It's just going to remain inked up, I know. It's standard. And it was really nice in the Peniter, wait, am I saying that right? Anyway, it's the Italian journal notebook that I'm using right now, but for some reason I think I'm mispronouncing that. Oh, here it is, right here. Or maybe I'm saying it right for once. Pineider. Okay, well, that's me with pronouncing. I'd spend all day trying to make sure I was going to pronounce everything right before I started. Excellent. Really, really nice. I found out this month that I just don't want to let that one run out of the Diamine Oxford Blue. I want to keep it going. And then I have an incomplete too. The next pen I did was TWSBI Go in Smoke with a broad nib. Well, actually, I don't remember and can't see whether it's broad or medium. It's probably the one that was a broad, but it writes like a medium. So I don't know. You will see it probably entered two different ways. Okay, I gave it an incomplete because I didn't test it thoroughly, but I have used it on a couple letters, and it was just a case where I wanted to put it in the pen. I wanted to ink it up, even though I was pushing a dozen pens, and good heavens. So then there's another pen that isn't even on here, which is, I ended up wanting to ink up Tom's Studio Mallard into something, and I know how much I love this Moonman P136, I think it is. Let's see. Yeah, we go through this every time. I can hardly read it. P136. So I think I do have, yes, I do have a page in my Tom's Studio booklet on this one, so you'll get to see the whole write-up on it. So, and I graded it over on that page. But you can see how scattered things are. Mercy. Okay, but now let's go back, which I don't think I showed this. This is what happened. I ran into this tile looking for something else, and that's how come I ended up inking that TWSBI Go. But it's just a gorgeous ink. Real pretty, and I have a little bit of it left in sample. I combined 2 samples, and so I was all excited. So let's just flip through and see what I did do, which was not everything, but okay, with the Lamy Vista there, that first pen with the Pannonia Nettle, I loved how it picked up with the water brush, and it's just a really pretty happy green. So it's great for May. It makes me think of Vermont and everything, and my home state, and I love it. And then the next one I did in here was the Pilot Fuyugaki in the Lamy 2000, but this is just excellent. So nice. And back then we were installing a door. We were putting on a glass storm door, which I wrote about to several of my pen friends, because it was quite a project. It took us 3 days, but we inherited a secondhand door, which is excellent, and the cats love it because they can see out. So that's what was going on there. Okay, then the Benu Euphoria with the Monteverde Rose and Ore. See how the water brush is just lovely with that ink. It picks it right up, and it's just gorgeous. No problems on anything with that. And then the Benu Talisman with the Robert Oster Kids on the Block. It just fell as a kind of a regular blue to me. It didn't wow me the way, but it's pretty. And it was a nice sample. Okay, so let's see. There's somewhere in here where I did some complaining. I didn't redact what I wrote, but it wasn't in here. Okay, so then to get the full picture, we have to go into Tom's Studio notebook and see those entries. Okay, so the first one is the Rambling Rose, which is just gorgeous. Oh my, it's so pretty. And it did really good on this Graphilo paper, but it didn't like Midori paper, and I don't think, and it didn't really like CVS Caliber either. Put this will be next. I don't want to forget. And then, let me see. I'm going to have to take this off screen because there was something I just didn't want to, let's see. Not here, not here. Okay, I found it. Let's see. Sorry for the interruption here, but yeah, there's just one part that I just feel embarrassed about writing. It's like I write a journal in an ink journal. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so this was really wonderful. And depending on the paper, it was fantastic. I love the color. Okay, so then next up was that little Kaweco Sport aluminum with the double broad. So pretty and really responsive to the water brush. Loves the Graphilo paper. So it just tended to sit kind of on top of the Tomoe River paper and cause maybe some smearing, or just it didn't look as nice. It didn't show as much little shading or personality on that paper, but it did on the Graphilo, and it did just fine on the CVS Caliber. So then, okay, these were ones that weren't inked up. These were, never mind, I guess, yeah, this was just, I did it in my Serendipity for another video, which I can link at the end of this one. And then this, yeah, it's just awful how I went and blah blah down at the bottom here. But this is the Tom's Studio Mallard that I put in the little Moonman P136, and I just really like it. It's gorgeous. The splats are pretty. I gave it an A. It's very nice and smooth. It's kind of a green, but it it kind of makes you think of teal. And then here you could see how it reacted to the water brush. And sorry about that. I feel like I was sputtering. It's not like I ever say anything horrid, but I got to get over that. I mean, this is not a journal. This is an ink journal, a public ink journal. So, oh, and these were just note pages. And I covered all of the rest of these in my other video. Okay, so let's look at how everything that I have been writing with did on CVS Caliber. I'm going to try to make it a little bigger. Let's see. That would help just a little bit. And then, of course, when we get down to below here, I'll have to show you separately. But, okay, so the Lamy Vista with the Pannonia Nettle, it got an A-. I could feel that this paper, CVS Caliber, filler paper, I guess I should have put that right on there, so that we could make sure we remember CVS Caliber. Some of my favorite paper because it's relatively inexpensive, and I can even squirt ink onto it and it doesn't bleed through. It may seep a little and it may have a little ghosting, but I can really go crazy on this paper, which I like to do sometimes, even in letters. So next up, the Lamy Safari with Tom Studio Rambling Rose. It was dry on this paper. Okay, so I gave it a B+ because it was still pretty good for the writing and everything, but still kind of dry. Okay, then the Lamy 2000, that was still an A+. Let's see, maybe we should compare the report cards, because this is unusual. I don't usually do this, but it felt like it was going to be helpful. Okay, I can move this over, and then we can kind of see. Wait a minute, we're not in March, we're in May. My brain may be in March. Okay, so we're kind of, let's see if they'll line up a little bit. So you could see on Tomoe River paper, the same ink got an A+, and on CVS Caliber it got an A-. And we did downgrade a little with Tom Studio Rambling Rose, got an A on the Tomoe River, and it got a B+ over on CVS Caliber. But the Pilot ink maintained absolute perfection on this paper, so it was still an A+. Very good. And then the Kaveco Sport with the double broad with Tom Studio Mulled Apple Spice, it got an A on the Tomoe River because it just sort of sat there, and I actually felt like I was going to have a smeared up mess, but I didn't feel that at all. I gave it an A+ over on CVS Caliber. So here's another interesting one where the grade maintained, and with Monteverde Rose Noir in Banu, it's a Schmidt nib unit abroad. Okay, it maintained the A+, and it was wonderful, and it's real pretty, and I love using a water brush on CVS Caliber, so that's a good perk there. Okay, the next one also kind of maintained, but I can see that it's even drier on the CVS Caliber. So this was the Banu Talisman with a broad nib, with the Robert Oster Kids on the Block. I gave it an A both places, but I could feel it was drier over here. And that's okay, it still was okay. But I could see it, it just comes out across as a little bit more saturated on Tomoe River paper, which is nicer actually. Okay, and then on the Diamine Lavender, I was surprised it did just as well over on CVS Caliber. So it was in a TWSBI broad nib. Nothing's real unique there. Just different papers, and they both got an A+. Okay, so over here on the next one, the Pannonia Arvaxka. Okay, it definitely lightened up and became drier on the CVS Caliber, and I downgraded the grade from an A on Tomoe River paper to a B+ on the CVS Caliber. Excuse me. Okay, and then, all right, we got to line these up. Oops. I may be, oh, I'm so sorry. I think you may have been totally out of the, from about the fold on. So let's do that again so where you can see it. Okay, so there, just to point out, the Diamine Lavender was excellent, A+ on both paper, Tomoe River and CVS Caliber. Sorry, I get used to looking at what I'm doing rather than the camera, so that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. All right, My mother-in-law used to get after me for saying I was sorry all the time. If she was here right now, she'd be saying, Christina, stop that. Okay. So here we are, the Pannonia arvesca, A on Tomoy River, because it did a lot better. And then it was too dry over here on CVS Caliber paper. Not too dry, but dry enough that I've downgraded the grade a little to B+. Okay, and then the TWSBI Indigo Bronze with a medium nib with Diamine Oxford Blue, A+, both papers. That's a happy one to write with. Even though it's a medium nib, I just think the ink is magic. I mean, I really love Diamine Oxford Blue. Okay, and then the last one was incomplete, and then the Moon Man, I went ahead and did this one on CVS Caliber. It got an A, and I already can't remember what it got over here. Yeah, okay, it got an A on the Graphilo paper too. I'm sure it's a little bit darker and more saturated on Graphilo, but it still was acceptable and got a nice A over on CVS Caliber. So it was nice to do that. And I can use this backside maybe for next month to just do kind of a little sample to try it. I think that's what I'll do for June. Oh my gosh, it's hard to believe because today as I'm filming this, it is already the 22nd. I usually do these on the 15th. Okay, I think what we'll do now is switch over to chat mode here, right in this same area because my library is still underway, being fixed. And I got a couple of things written down that I just wanted to talk about, chat about. There, here we are in the same place. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to bring up as a topic was someone, one of my new pen pals wrote and asked me a question. And this was all done in email, but I got to thinking about it and I thought maybe I didn't answer it thoroughly enough. And I thought it was kind of a really interesting little topic. So she asked me, why do you prefer a broad nib? And so I had a lot more ideas even after I answered the email, and it's been such a crazy week, like literally, like really crazy. So I thought I would go about kind of answering it here too, because it's a really interesting topic, and it's true. I really prefer a broad nib, especially for letter writing. And when I'm pen pal letter writing, I think the main thing I'm focusing on are all these inks that I'm trying out, you know, and it's not the only topic that me and my pen pals talk about, obviously. It's not just about inks, but it is one of the main things that's fun is showing, you know, what they look like in the various nibs. And I'm kind of, I mean, it's typically I would have almost everything inked up either in broad or a stub nib or maybe a medium nib, but so I really prefer them because they flow so smoothly. It's almost like you pick up a better nib quality just by using a larger nib size that lets more ink flow out. That's one reason. And then the other reason is I have big writing. And if you check out Brian Goulet's kind of little guideline on which, you know, nib size might work out best for you, it shows that. It shows the size of your writing really does matter. And I tend to just write really big, you know, because if it's a choice between like college ruled or wide ruled, I'll always pick the wide rule, you know. It's just me. Unless I was forced to use like a really thin pen, you know, which would not be good because I don't like my writing with a really tiny, like extra fine nib, unless it has to be tiny. Like if you're filling out a form where you just don't have room, then I definitely quickly realize, you know, the value of a really thin one. The other thing I wrote down, which is hard to describe, and I'm not sure this is going to make any sense, but for me, the broad nibs that I use, it just ends up being that more paper, nib, and ink combinations seem to work out if I'm using a broad nib. And, you know, you can kind of see that I use a lot of Tomoy River paper. I also use a lot of CVS Caliber paper, which I do need that flow and that extra juiciness on CVS Caliber, I feel like, in order for things to, you know, really flow along smoothly. And I don't necessarily prefer gold nibs. They're too expensive for me, and I only have a couple, and that's fine. It's not like I wish I only had gold nibs even. I just like the broad steel nibs, so. And I wrote down, except for cheap paper. Yeah, so if I pick up my broad nibs and I'm trying to write on like Mead regular paper that's in like a 10 or 50-cent notebook, or I don't know, maybe they're $1 nowadays with inflation, but then I'm gonna bleed through, the ink is gonna bleed through, and I probably wouldn't be too happy with it. So I hope that answers the question just a little bit better. And also, I just thought that was really cool. In fact, I'd love to hear like why people like to write with extra fine, because I'm sure there's reasons. There's probably particular paper they like to use, or grid, or dot grid or graph, or whatever it is. I mean, I can speculate, but I don't really know, because when I was using like the what's it called? Oh my gosh, the little Japanese weeks, Hobonichi weeks, then yeah, you've got to have a little bit thinner of a nib line in order for everything to fit. So, okay, I think that's enough on that topic. But also, okay, so next I wanted to just show you a couple of pens that came in from pen friend LP, who was downsizing her pens, and I've got this one that she sent that is really got me charmed. It's called an Esterbrook Epic. And I'd never heard of it, never seen one before. It's real shiny. Let me see if I can put it. Okay, so let's see, Esterbrook. I don't know, is that backwards for you, or can you even see it? There we go. It's real shiny, especially the cap, and then it's real textured, the whole thing. It's got maybe a medium nib. I'm not really sure. I haven't figured that out yet. It might have a medium nib, but I have been writing with this, and I really like it. It's a super interesting pen, especially since I can't find anything on them. The only thing I could find on it was that it at Farney's they had an old listing for one that was either a ballpoint or roller, and it wasn't a fountain pen, and they were out of stock. So that was one, and then another one which I haven't written with yet is a Levenger pen. It's this one. It's real heavy. It's a metal one. So this was like a little treasure trove of pens to try out. I think this is a cartridge converter. Yeah, it's got a cartridge. Really, a converter. So really interesting and fun. I like that too, that this one is a snap cap. So you'll be seeing some of these because they'll show up. And then there was another one, a Newler's Ink. I don't think that's the same thing as an Ahab, but I'm not sure. I could see the insides looked very similar. The converter and everything. But this one may be different. So again, fun to explore and add to the lineup maybe for June or July or onward. And then there was a Parker that I'm not sure what it is. It's plastic, very lightweight. This part here, when it came, I was afraid it had melted because it was like 100 and something degrees in the truck, I'm sure. It was really hot, heat index that day. And but no, it's okay now. It's not, I don't think it's gonna, I think it cooled back down into its plastic self. Okay, there were some more, but those are the ones I just wanted to show you because that I've been having fun with, and in my spare the seconds or moments that I've had. So the next thing I want to talk about, and then I'll show you a little part of my bullet journal, just one little thing, was that it's been a really kind of a stressful time with a lot going on, but I did make this discovery that when I do my process journal, which the last two questions in my the journaling format that my counselor gave me, they are about what your goals are for the next day and what the action steps are going to be that you'll need in order to meet those goals. And so what I have learned is to have my bullet journal right there with me when I'm doing the process journal, because there's always one or two things that are worthy of transferring. Really, that's how. And it was really funny to make that discovery. You'd think I would have thought of it long before. But I guess what it is better to do that the night before so that it's kind of there. And I meet my day by remembering, oh yeah, that's, when I sat down and really reflected on, say, on Thursday, then these were the things that I determined that I should, at least one or two things that I should concentrate on for the next day, for Friday. And then the other thing that has been like a really helpful tool for me is I started tracking my sleep, because I've always been a light sleeper, and I've always kind of had trouble with that, and it translates into trouble with everything if I don't get a handle on it. So I was a little bit like, oh, I don't want a separate page in my bullet journal. I don't want to go to any trouble. What am I going to do? So just out of laziness, I kind of stumbled on doing it this way, and I think I can just hold it up. I ended up putting on my monthly spread, where I have room for appointments and to-do list and all that. Okay, so like here's the big picture of it. Okay, so what I ended up doing is way over to the left, where I wasn't really writing anything there very much. I started to track my sleep as a bar, like across, and I did a vertical line at the 7-hour mark, so that, because I just, please, heaven above, I need 7 hours. I'm not really going to function as a person without that. Piece together, whatever, because sometimes, I wake up in the middle of the night, takes a little bit to go back to sleep, or I might take a nap on the couch in the evening reading, and I do count that, and I think my Fitbit usually counts it too. I always double check to see whether it counted it or not. Anyway, I'll do this up close more. This is really helping, because I'm doing green for when I go over that line where it says 7 hours. And then I'm jotting some things over here that help me see maybe what, if there is something. Like if I goof up and I had too much caffeine, or there was bad news, or, just, I'm making these little notes to try to discover, because I had like 3 days in a row where I was thinking, oh, if I don't sleep right pretty soon, I'm not going to be able to do anything. That was 15, 16, 17. It was like, whoa, I didn't meet 7. I didn't even get close to 7. I was like, let's see, 5.5, 5.5, 6.5, But since I started doing this too, it really makes me think about everything that I know to do and doing it, because it makes me really happy when I can fill that in with green and I've gotten what I need, And if I could just get this under grips, 7 hours every night, then I would like to move it up to 8, because that's probably more realistic. I don't know. I'm getting older, so maybe it isn't, but we'll see. But anyway, I thought I'd share it because it's helped me. And it's so simple. Oh, and I'm putting my steps too. I started putting my steps. It's pitiful. Some days are pitiful. And some, I actually had one with the 10,000. Whoop-de-doo. Good grief. But I had said I wanted 7,000 minimum. But on those tired days, I just end up being kind of sluggish. So that's, anyway, I like to share things about journaling and whatever. If I find something like that helps me so much, I just wanted to share it. That's all. And then just a real briefly, because I don't want to talk about it a lot, but I just wanted to share that what I'm dealing with right now mainly is just an intense amount of work for, for being a guardian for my mom. And so the position that we find ourselves in right now is that she doesn't qualify for Medicaid, long-term care, choices for care. She's not, her activities of daily living are not poor enough to qualify for it. And yet, at the same time, the place she's staying, which is an assisted living, has gone ahead and served a involuntary discharge. So, because her skill level's not where it needs to be for them, for their license and things like that. So I find myself in a position of doing, not only appealing the Medicaid, but appealing the choice at the level of the assisted living, which I know this is, a lot to say, but it's big. And it has got to be right, you know, because I want my mom to have what she wants, which is to stay in Vermont and everything. And so that's really swallowed me on some days. Like, you know, there's phone calls and emails and paperwork to sign and research to do, because I had to get up to fully understanding these charts and things. And I'm still kind of banging my head against the wall, but I've gotten some legal aid. I've got help, you know, and it's just really something, because I'm actually having to, it's one agency. One agency actually does the licensing for the assisted living and makes the decisions about the long-term care. So we are not sure, you know, how this works. Like, you know, do they realize that they have just thrown her out of every option, you know, that there is? Anyway, and that's too much information. And actually, I'm realizing too, I need to, Mom knows all about it and everything, so it's not, but I need to do an email to a couple of the aunts, so I'll need to do that before I release this, which is fine. But anyway, it is hard. It's hard for me to separate any real big part of my life. Like, in other words, if I wasn't going to talk about it, like when I had the losses of my senior cats that year, then I just wasn't able to separate that from you know, doing my videos. So, and I know a lot of people on here have kind of been on this little roller coaster with me, because it has been a lot of challenges, a lot of applying for this and repeatedly not having, you know, which is it's the good news that her skills are higher than that level of care, but it's the bad news that there seems to be this gap, you know. So hopefully, you know, hopefully this isn't something I should cut out of the video. But anyway, I just thought I'd be honest about it and ask for prayers, because it's a strange feeling when you just feel like, oh, you can't, you're faced with, you kind of like agree with both sides, and yet there's no other alternative that yields what she would like. You know, just to stay there. And Coco's looking at me like, oh, Mommy. There's Mommy with her video. Everybody was asleep when I started the video. So, but, you know, I think, you know, it took me 3 days, I think. Yeah, 3 days to get back to even sleeping after that bad news. So it just, and, you know, I shouldn't label anything bad or good. We just go with the best that we can do in life, and that's the way it is. So anyway, I will end on that note, and maybe I'll just chop it off somewhere if it sounds ridiculous to say. But I'm still writing. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of journaling to process all this, and a lot of you know, note taking and coming up to speed with all these regulations. And well, I call them regulations. I guess they call them something different. Criteria. But I'm old military, so I think of it as regulations, and yeah. So, but we had waivers in the military, and they apparently have variances. So, you know, it all kind of translates. It's like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm right back in red tape land. So I'll see you guys next time, and I'd love to hear in the comments about what you're writing with, or anything you want to say. But also that the thread of talking about which nib size works out best for us is very interesting. I spent the first 2 years writing only with medium nibs when I transferred from gel pens. So I was using like Pentel Energels and G2s, Pilot G2s, which weren't quite as smooth as the Pentel. And then, so medium nibs seemed really natural and kind of a nice bridge. But then when I discovered broad nibs, I didn't turn back. So, okay, I'll see you on the next one, and I'll see you in the comments. Oh, and that was the other thing. Probably I already thought I'd said it, because the other video that I had to trash, I had said it. I'm really sorry that I'm not keeping up with comments like I used to. But we have almost 9,000 subscribers now, and quite a volume of comments, which is wonderful. And go ahead, talk to each other, and don't think that I'm not reading them. I am, but it is really, especially in the last month or so, it's been hard to keep up, and impossible in the last week or so, since things got a little difficult. You know, my workload got heavier. So, but I think I'll just, you know, keep doing my best, keep reading them, but I won't always be able to answer every single comment, I guess, anymore. Here comes Coco. There he is. Hey! Oh, it's time for me to see what he's up to. So what time is it? It's getting towards supper time for him, so I can understand that. Hey, Coco. Coco. Whoops. Oh, I didn't mean to shake the camera, but I wanted him to look. Okay, Coco and I will see you next time. Do take care and stay safe out there. Bye for now.